Hello and welcome to the Webmethod Unplugged. My name is Robert McKay, and I will be guiding you through the journey that we're going on today with leaders across the industry as we talk about different things ranging from IT security to identity to different components of the industry. What's happening, what's working, what's changing, and what's coming next. Let's dive in. Today's session we're calling Security Beyond the Firewall. We have with us today Camila Martins, a representative from Microsoft who is amazing, has worked there for a number of years, but she's not just a representative of Microsoft because she has a background in architecture and design as well, and is involved with some pretty amazing projects across the Microsoft scape. I would like to welcome you, Camila, today, not only as an architect, not only as a security professional, but as a friend as well. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
So, Camila, you've described yourself as a security generalist with deep focuses on network and identity. What's the thing that first drew you to the space?
You know, it was accidental. I started doing IT and as a server administrator. So I was doing Windows 2008 administration.
Oh,
sorry, dating myself. It's not too bad. It's not too far out. But I started as just a general sysadmin, and then I ended up getting a new role that was managing firewalls, right? So I moved from like server admin into like network admin. And as I was doing that, the owner of it was a small company. The owner of the company that observed me working just said, you know what, I need a security person to focus on the security aspects of our internal business here, and I want you to do it. And I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about because I don't know anything of security. And he said, "You're already doing it." I didn't realize I was already doing it. So it's like it's the brain, you know. Basically, what I was doing that called his attention was like I used to notice that everyone's computers were not like updating. So I found a way to push updates automatically for everyone. I had noticed that some people, we had file shares, and anybody could log into the file shares for the HR and see everybody's, papers. And I'm like, I don't think we're supposed to be seeing these things. Can we lock that down? And people were entering the company, leaving the company. I was making sure that IDs were, disabled. And I was just doing it on a daily, and all of my firewall rules are so tidy. I wanted to know, what are they for? Are they minimal?
You actually went through them. You're like, okay, hold on. What are we actually doing here? Organize it.
Yeah. And then he was like, no, let's put you through. And then I took a boot camp and got started. Okay. And then it was formal security, right? And then I understood all of those concepts of least privilege and microsegmentation and all that. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I have been doing this. But it was basically how my brain works, just saying, let's do things right. Let's keep things tidy. Let's give visibility to people that only need visibility for what they need. And that's how I started. But that was a while ago.
It's kind of funny when you're talking about Server 2008. I was kind of joking, and I'm like, no, I started with Server 2000. So there you go.
Yeah.
I love that. Essentially, that was innate, in where you were at. So you were essentially, hey, you know what? I'm just doing my job, and I'm coupling security with it just as a natural default and observation. Hey, I've got a file share here, and there's a lot of people that have access to it. Why? Right. And it was, or we've got a disarray of firewall rules that nobody knows really what they're doing. How about if we actually understand what we're doing here? Or even better, like the removal of access, right? So everything that you've just described, right, is basic identity and access management.
Yes. And to me, the removal of access it's almost silly to talk about, but it is. If you research lots of breaches, that happen with large companies and it had huge costs, it ends up being sometimes or often as simple as a past account that got left turned on for too long, a user account that the person is on, nobody noticed, but it's still enabled. And then once, adversary takes a hold of that, if no one is there to say, hey, there's something wrong with my account, it's just they have a long several days to just go around and do their thing until it's actually identified. But that's the key. It's just it starts with the basics. I think with the basics we can cover the majority of the potential breaches or incidents that can happen.
I totally agree, and you've illustrated essentially why it doesn't just matter for the individual, but it matters for the organization.
Absolutely.
I mean, right now, just as much as ever, I think you'd agree that it's important. It matters, and how do we get that message across? Like, what do you think?
There's a couple of layers, so number one, the organization itself has to have the level of awareness to understand the risk and say, yes, we are going to invest in this particular security approach, or framework, or not just technologies, but the whole concept. It starts with the organization. A lot of times it's not even top of mind because security is not going to be a revenue generator, unless you are an MSSP. But security is not going to be a revenue generator for that company, and companies would like to invest in things that will bring money back, right? But it has to start there. Once it starts there, then is the second layer, which is the people working for that company. So now security may end up being seen as something that's in the way. So if you have developers that are moving quickly and now you have lots of maybe additional security controls in place, and it may see like, oh, you're in my way to make me move fast, or you have users that were logging in or just sharing passwords or having the same passwords for everything, or you know
That
now you
doesn't
have
happen.
or you have to say no, don't write it on your sticky note, or let's do multi-factor for these critical applications. Now it's a second step that they're adding to their life. They're like, oh, this is just delaying me. uh so there is a cultural thing there, and sometimes there is an actual challenge. Even if the users want to proceed, sometimes there's an actual challenge. I was recently talking to, for example, customers in the healthcare field, and let's say, which obviously we're dealing with, health data, it's even more important. Not dismissing other data, sorry. But healthcare information is very important to be protected. But think about it: if you are putting nurses or other people in the healthcare industry, they're dealing with lives. They're dealing with people that need care immediately. Any type of security control that you put in place for them to access that data cannot slow them down. It just can't. So even if they want to be all in the security, the experience on the day-to-day, the impacts that it has on the actual work, especially work that is frontline, right? It has to be almost a seamless experience, while still being secure, which is a mega challenge. So all of these three layers going in, to me, I think is what needs to be considered. And it's not as simple sometimes.
So, and I'm glad that you shared that because the idea of security isn't just a technical problem; it's a human one,
Hmm.
right? It's a human problem, and essentially, like when just putting in the tech alone won't make us secure.
Yep.
There's these other pieces that you've described that are required to make it successful. So when you come in to this type of a culture, right, where maybe the thought process is this is just going to slow me down, or it's not important, or I don't
Hmm.
have time, right? And I mean, I think quite frankly, especially given like a nurse and doctor situation, like you could be in a real situation where seconds matter, right? Minutes
Hmm.
matter. Like it's not an over exaggeration to say that. And how do you bring that balance to the conversation to say, okay, I understand that these minutes matter, but if your hospital gets taken over by a bunch of hackers
Right.
from Russia, you aren't going to be able to save anybody. And they are essentially going to extort you
Hmm.
to pay them to release you. And how do you convey that message?
Yeah, the approach that I think works, and I have taken in the past, even when I was a security architect, to transform and have other roles in the organization also embrace, security, is to make them included in the process and make them included in understanding why. It is not because all the government has a new regulation. No, It's, oh, it's not because of my boss is telling me to, and the corp wants us to do that. No, let's include you in this information, in this decision making. Well, or understand why, include you in understanding why the decision was made, and actually show the impact of not doing it. Because the moment that you have examples like, let's say, a ransomware, right? And there are examples that can be shared with people and roles and say, look, if you're in finance, if you're in healthcare, if you're in manufacturing, if you're in critical infrastructure, right? Look at what could happen, examples, and say, if we didn't have X type of control, or if we do not invest in doing this on our day-to-day basis, these are the results that we would be susceptible to. And with examples of being everything is locked up, but you cannot use anything. Actually, instead of one person or being inconvenienced, it's going to be the whole organization and all its customers and all its partners and all its vendors, or the civilians, right?
Yep.
If you show, I see that if you show to them, we are doing it because of these reasons right here, people see it. It becomes very clear, because people have a tendency to be risk averse. So the moment that they see that risk and like truly visualize and saying, oh my God, yeah, this could happen to us, I would never want this to happen to us. And then they feel like they are part of avoiding that, or contributing to avoiding that type of thing from happening.
So, with these teams, like you're describing, especially those ones that have invested in platforms like Microsoft, to essentially start standing the guards at the gate, right? To start putting the trellises in order and the moat around the business to protect it. What changes more when they mature, right? And like looking at this from a Microsoft lens, the tools that they use or the way people that use them, do you see any sort of patterns in in
Mm-hmm.
inside of the Microsoft market that you can share here?
Well, we see the pattern of, the first step starts with the organization making a decision that they will be investing in a type of security tool.
Yeah,
So they come to Microsoft, other vendors, let's say Microsoft, they come in, the security offerings that we have will align with their needs. First step is purchasing, right? So they bought that. But what really, really changes is not buying it. What really, really changes is how you're going to proceed with getting it up and running, deploying, and getting your company on the same track while maintaining our business running. You can't impact the buying. So what changes that I have seen work well is generally rollouts that are phased, that are staged. So never coming in and saying, oh my God, we're going to be a transformation all at once, right? Or not even to all employees at once. It's truly figuring out what is my most critical concern. In to some companies, it might be the identity piece. To some companies, it might be their actual endpoints. To some companies, might be their network. Pick one. Say, like, let's say, do your analysis and say, to me, this is the most important right now. Pick that, get that going to a point of functioning, or not completely 100% mature, but functioning enough before you proceed to doing everything else. I see the most success when companies are able to truly segment and deploy in staged rollouts.
yeah.
And then in doing so, they are also feeling how the employees and everybody is actually adopting that, because they will be able to tell right away if that's working, if that's not working for the long run.
So I would share with that one of the things that well, first off, I agree with it. The first thing that kind of comes to my mind is I don't know if you've ever heard the analogy of essentially like picking apart the elephant, right? Don't try and swallow the whole elephant. Don't try and boil the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try and do it all at once, because if you do that, you will not succeed. It's
Yeah.
just, you don't pick one, get really good at it, whatever the most important one is. And I project managers say this all the time, right? If everything's an emergency, then nothing's an emergency, right? If everything's a 10, well, then it doesn't matter. So you have had to have taken the time to say, okay, to your, obviously for me, identity is the most important thing to me, but that may not be the most important thing to, customer ABC out there, right?
Mhm.
And say, okay, for right now, we'll say endpoint security. Endpoint security is our biggest, concern or area of risk, and we need to address it.
Mhm.
And I will say that one of the things that I personally love is Microsoft Purview. And
Mhm.
I use it. I have found it incredibly helpful for getting organized as a small business owner, and I have shared that with everybody that I've come
Yes.
across. I said, look, if you don't know where to begin, here's a good place to do it. It'll get you nice and organized. It'll help you walk through it. Yeah, it does cost money. It'll be the best money you've ever
Mhm.
spent.
Purview, and I agree data. So for data security, it's even more interesting because at the end of the day, in the majority of cases, also whatever attack vector, right, like that malicious actor will take, whether they come in by abusing your identity, whether they come in by abusing your endpoint, by abusing your network, whatever they're doing, or some servers, they are after what? They're after your data. So that's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what they want. They're like, there's something in it. What for? What reasons
Yeah.
or why it varies? But I was like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, generally speaking, most of the time, they're after the data. And then if you can start by protecting the data, it's
Yep.
great. The I don't want to call it a downside, but the challenge with that it takes a lot of understanding your own environment, your own data,
Yep.
real
Yep.
estate, because
Yeah.
just getting down to the bottom and saying, wait, what types of data do we have as a company? Now let's classify these. Now let's define who can access these. Now let's
Yep.
define how we encrypt these. Let's define for how long we're gonna keep these. Let's define,
Yep.
and it is absolutely valuable. I completely agree. And I wanted to say, if I had to put it in order of importance, I wanted to say it's top.
Yeah.
People will
I
fight me
would
now.
100% agree with you on it. I would.
Yeah,
So
it's just really challenging.
so for the folks that are listening, Camila and I have a mutual friend. His name is Raul Adaverde, and he's actually the one who introduced us. And I would say that was essentially that what you just shared is what he came in with, and he said, "Look, Robert, you have to start here."
Mhm.
And we said, okay. And that's where we started. And I've never regretted that even for a second.
Yeah,
Like,
excellent.
because what it did is it forced all of the conversations that needed to happen, right?
Mhm.
We have conversations about finance. We know we have conversations about sales. You got to have those. You have conversations. But if you don't make time for the conversation about security and pull on that thread and take a deeper look at it, and you aren't intentional, right? It will get drowned out by everything, and then you won't make any progress. And I
Totally.
will be grateful to Raul for that for the rest of my life.
Yes, same thing. It's strategic thinking, right?
Yeah.
Works great.
All right. Well, so I want to kind of move into the next segment here about the personal side of cybersecurity. And
Mhm.
so I want to bring into focus how security affects the individual. So we kind of talked about that a little bit at the beginning, not just the organizational, but how it can impact the individual. So security matters for everyone at every age. So, what are some of the biggest personal security gaps you see today?
Oh man, I feel like there's so much. It's getting better, and it's also getting better. It's at the same time. I in my mind, I'm like, I do see security as important for everyone, and it's one of those things whether we realize it or not. And today, obviously, everybody is online, and we have access to our whole lives are digital. What I mean is, if you have your bank accounts, you have insurance, you have all of your human needs or to function in the day-to-day life, it's going to be a digital asset. Or we need to know how to even secure ourselves. What's going on? Like if somebody's took an if somebody took a credit card under your name, had your social, and started running that, how long is it going to take you to realize that? Like it's just those questions, or if somebody starts using your password somewhere else, how long is it going to take you to realize that? And this is for us as humans, same thing for companies.
Yeah.
But it's like for us on a day-to-day, and then if we talk about children, are they learning this from a young age to say, hey, not everything that somebody's texting you, selling you just want a toy. Click here. Don't click here. You didn't get any toys. Do they know?
Don't click. Don't click.
It's the new version. It's the new version of if, somebody drives a van and offers you candy, don't go inside. It's the new version of that, but it's on the phone.
Oh my gosh. Stay away from the white van. No white van.
Right. And it's like, but my question is, are the children learning this? I feel like it should be in school. And I don't even know if it is, but it should. If children are not learning it, think about the parents. Not every parent is in IT security.
Yeah.
Do you think parents are even thinking about education? It's not there. So if it was there with the adult, it could also be passing down to the kids. And then lastly, we have our elderly, because the other another group, demographic that is now also handling fairly well. We did with technology. So we did so well in making technology simple that truly people are able to adopt, which is amazing and great. But then I'm like, are you also adopting that mindset of saying, hey, I got to be really careful and really smart, and I got to take, be more aware of, my passwords, my IDs, my accounts, who am I providing this information to, etc. Or how can I monitor these things? So the whole range, it doesn't matter what you do for a living, where you live, who you are, how old you are. It affects everyone. And unfortunately, the bad actors have no guilt. They have no problem. Whoever it is, they'll take it. So there's so many stories of people like losing their savings or all of that. I do believe it's getting better, because when I talk to people, like I have a lot of neighbors that are elderly, and it's amazing. They know. They're like, this is a scam. Look at it. And they'll come and show it to me. Do you think I'm going to believe this? I didn't order anything from FedEx, and they want me to click on this link. And I'm like, okay, good. Keep on going.
So
then I go share with your friends, and I say that I like, you're right, you got this right, and share with all of your friends. Tell everyone.
Yeah, tell everybody, right? Tell everybody. So it's so fun. So many stories were popping into my head. So the most recent one. So the demographic, I have 4 children, right? Mm-hmm. And my son comes to me and he says, "Hey, Dad, I want an Xbox." I said, okay, great. Let's save up for an Xbox. Okay, cool. That's a good, worthy goal. Go out and work and save. And so he's got half the money he needs for an Xbox, like $300 or something. He's mowed a bunch of lawns. He's done a bunch of work. Super proud of him. And so he comes and he says, "Dad, this is taking forever." So what he does is he goes, and I said, okay, well, what research have you done? So he goes out online and he says, "Dad, I found this Xbox for $150. And I said, okay, here's a teaching moment here, right? Teaching moment here. I said, cool. Let's take a look at this website. And he said, well, no, it says it right here. It says $150 for this Xbox. And I said, yeah, it definitely says that. And I said, well, why do you think it's $150? And he said, I don't know, but we got to buy it because, nobody's clicked on this yet. It says that they only got one left. I said, okay, it does say that. It does say that. And I said, why do you think that is? And he stopped and he said, I said, have you ever bought something from them before? And he's like, but why would somebody lie? And my heart broke, right? Because I'm about to and he's, he's a 12-year-old boy. So maybe it's probably about time, right? Like start do that. And so we kind of go through it, and you could just see this, like this internal conflict that's happening, but it says $150, Dad. All I got to do is click. All I got to do is get my email. All I got to do is this. And so this is, this was interesting. What happened next? I said, okay, so I know you don't believe me. Have you asked ChatGPT?
All right.
And so he said, no, I haven't. I said, drop it in there. See what ChatGPT says. So I'm kind of watching. I'm kind of curious myself. What is ChatGPT going to say right now?
Right.
He drops it in ChatGPT and he says, hey, my dad says that this site seems kind of sketchy. What do you think? And ChatGPT goes out and pulls back this stuff from Reddit and pulls back these user reviews. And there's it brings everything together. And at the very end, pulls out like a page of data, right? And it says, do not trust this website. Do not buy from them. And I said, I'm sorry, right? Like this is not it, right? This isn't going to work for you. And this kid's just crestfallen. I said, but the good news is you're not out $150.
Right. And now I would say the same. I'm like, tell all your friends.
Tell all your friends, right?
Yeah, tell all your friends.
You know what? Okay. And that's what I do. I should go back to him and be like, hey, now you need to go tell, you know what? That's a good point, Camila. I am going to take that back. Like, now go tell all your friends.
Yeah.
Don't do this. Because I would have done the same thing when I was his age. Dad, it says free. All you got to do is click on here. It's free, right?
About something right now when we were talking about what makes adoption work, right? And I'm talking for companies. The feeling of being social is a thing for humans. When you have your other coworker that is all into the security, that is saying, wow, this is great, or this is working, or this is protecting us, it kind of creates momentum. So if you start with that group of people, the core, like pick your, your let's call it your most fluent professionals that are like all into technology, a little more friendly to technology. Put them in that focus group, roll out to them. The way that they are gonna show that to the rest of the company or to the rest of our friends and neighbors gets them going. It's like, oh, whoa, yeah, that's working for you. Let me do it too. It just brings more positivity towards the adoption.
I'm glad that you brought that up because as I'm thinking about that now, I'm like, I should like, there's no reason to keep, this is not like secret information. We definitely, like, we should be exploring and letting people know, hey, this is, watch out for this, right? Hey, neighbor, I don't know, or in his case, hey, little friend next door, I learned this today. So I can't actually wait to get home and go ask him, hey, have you shared with any of your buddies this experience that you had around the Xbox? You wouldn't want them to kind of, and I wonder if the little, I'll be interested. It's a little homework assignment I'm going to take back from this to go and do now.
And did you know, sometimes you say something like that, it happened with your kid, but the kid goes to school, tells all of the kids in class, and you never know when that actually triggers the brain of a security person, which is your next security professional.
Oh, there you go.
There's somebody in that classroom, I guarantee, that will really take it.
So talking about that security professional, right? And that sort of segue into the world of, I would say that probably the first things they're going to see is like an MFA prompt, right? And I can tell you that that's definitely something that I saw when Microsoft switched over, and essentially on the commercial side, or I guess maybe not commercial, on the individual consumer side, right?
Yes,
essentially
right.
started pushing this out. And I know that it probably caused some amount of frustration, and not just for Microsoft, right? For everybody, right? When this happened. But I would say that I would assume that it's been well received kind of by the masses at this point, right? Everyone knows, okay, hey, there is this MFA piece. It's as simple as responding to it. If a person's still pushing back at this point, what does that say about their habits?
Oh man, that's hard. So the adoption has skyrocketed. The experience has improved. Diverse people and will be able to use this without seeing issues if they still accept the change, right? Now, if we're talking about a person that is still like, this is not working, this is not for me, but some people really don't like change. But for that kind of person, I would probably get to the bottom. It doesn't scale, but I would probably get to the bottom of something that is important to them. It always goes back. Maybe if they're not seeing the big picture and how that's helpful overall, getting deep into something that matters to them. There's something in their lives, there's something that they care about that could be at risk by not adopting new security approaches to day. And if you can trigger that, normally that's how you make people that are still fighting change go towards change. Or at least that's how I was able to do. But it's kind of hard, right? Like we don't have time to go provide individual services, but it does happen. But I think it's being minimized by better experience.
I think though that you describe, I mean, from my perspective, I feel like one of the scriptures is good neighbors, right? Good community, right? I mean, it was really funny when I married into my wife's family years ago. I was the IT guy, I was the security guy, and I still welcome. I don't see it as much anymore, but everybody would bring, "Hey, how do I do this? How does this new iPhone work? Or how does this
Hmm.
new Windows update? Like, I saw these changes. What do I do?" And I do think that I think that nobody outside of IT would ever understand what I just described, right? So if anybody in your family or neighborhood finds out that you are connected in any way with IT, they will come to you. And I think that we as IT professionals and really as security professionals need to adopt that attitude that you described, which is
Hmm.
we need to be good citizens, and you do need to pull some time out for the 80-year-old lady next door who doesn't,
Hmm.
is still maybe fat fingering her pin into her phone, or for the little kid who wants to buy an Xbox and doesn't totally get
Yes.
that, there's this scam waiting at the end of it that's gonna but you have to take time out. And like I said, I'm really glad that I'm just really stuck on that. I'm really glad that you mentioned, hey, let's get people excited about it. How do we do it? Go and share your experience with people.
Yeah, and did you know? So I work in product inside Microsoft, but if you really think about it, there's learnings back and forth, right? So what I'm learning professionally, I can bring into the community, and what I'm learning in the community does teach me lessons back in too. Because when we're talking to people that are so different in all kinds of ways, and have different levels of understanding of technology, but at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, which is we want to be safe and secure. When I'm talking to them, I hear something like, "Oh my god, I never saw it that way." But there are users out there, right? For the technology we are bringing to the table.
Yep.
Look at We're bringing technology to literally every profession in the world, every company in the world. So we are truly dealing with all varieties of human personality and expertise and brain functions. When I hear that, and I'm like, wait, I never thought about it that way. How are people experiencing the security products we're bringing to them? Did we see that? Did we think about that?
Yeah.
When we built our buttons, did we think that our buttons should be spaced out just a little further out instead of being super close together because the person may need a little more space between them? But all kinds of things. So, but it's listening and talking to people like that about security will come up with some things that we may not have thought about that can be incorporated in our security practice for the better.
And so just by being a good citizen, we actually help ourselves
Also,
because we go, right?
mhm.
Like we're now learning because we've expanded a little bit further, right? By going out and doing that good service, we now are aware of these other things that exist outside of our sphere, right?
Mhm. I really believe in that, and I'm not saying
Yeah.
everybody drop everything you're doing and go be volunteering your time 100%, but
Yeah.
it's a little bit. It's whenever it happens your day to day, we see these little pockets of interaction you can have. It does make a difference because it goes forward. People
Yeah.
like these things. They learn something new. They feel like they're part of it. They go and they tell the next person. It's just it really truly goes back and forth, and I it's that's one of the things I really love about security in general, or my how I transform my personality with my career, with my understanding, and I can contribute that way.
So I I would love to hear some more about your volunteer work, Camila. So I am myself, I'm involved with an outfit called Hope Humanitarian.
Mhm.
Dominican Starfish is another one that I gravitate towards. And essentially both of those are revolving around working with refugees, individuals outside of the United States. We went to Africa, we've been to the Dominican Republic, we've been to a couple of different countries to go build homes. In fact,
Oh, that's
there's one that's
amazing.
going, I think they're going to Turkey um, right over the Thanksgiving break to go and build homes and work with folks that don't have the resources that we have here. And I can tell you that from my personal experience, and it sounds like your experience is the same, that taking that time to go out and volunteer
Mhm.
is super important and super close to who you identify as.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, this is amazing. I hope I can do something similar one day in my life too that involve bigger and broader out of country. I have dreams about that. Right now, there's two. core volunteering groups that I'm participating with, which one of them is the Michigan Beekeepers Association. This is for all the beekeepers in the state of Michigan. There is a children's educational program to come to schools and teach kids about beekeeping and pollinators, help them understand that bees are not bad and they're good, etc. Get them going. Don't be
I love
afraid.
it.
Yeah,
Don't be
but
scared. They're good.
don't be scared. But I'm the coordinator, so we have professional beekeepers or hobby beekeepers that are also passionate about education and children, and I coordinate the volunteers, and the volunteers go all around the state into their community, in the schools in their community, libraries in their community, community centers, right? They go and they teach the children. They have them taste honey, the whole thing. So, but they go through the biology. They go. It's like science, and it's super cool. So I'm a coordinator for that. And then I am a volunteer for ISC Squared. You know, the association that does the CISSP exam, the one
Yep.
that everybody is afraid of taking.
Every time I see that, I'm like, "Oh, that's somebody who studied really hard."
No, you can do it. You can do it. But it just needs a little studying. But if you're a security professional, you can absolutely do it. And I am a volunteer to write questions for the exam. So every couple of years or every other year, like I think we have different tasks now. Right now we're doing review for the questions, but I am volunteering with whatever questions make it onto the exam. There's a group of us that are there making sure it's relevant, making sure it's up to date. And that's another piece of volunteering that has more to do with the career side versus the other one with the beekeeping.
It's like, there you are. It's the community again and the career. Like
Yeah.
it's this yin and yang that you've got going on. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess kind of maybe migrating a little bit away from the individual and kind of coming back a little bit to the corporate or the non-community side. I'd love to talk a little bit about business risk. And like essentially I want to demonstrate like how small vulnerabilities, and I think we kind of identified a few of those, human or technical, can translate into real organizational risk. So for example, how do you see individual cybersecurity behaviors influencing business risk?
Oh, so did you say individual cybersecurity people?
Yeah.
Oh,
So like,
yeah.
how does so for example, like I as an individual, maybe I put my,
Yes.
password on a sticky, or maybe I
Right.
as an individual, maybe I don't, maybe what I do is I won't look at my access review. I just bulk approve everything. Or maybe I, as the IT guy, set up an unsecured FTP server. That's pretty specific because I don't want to, I don't want to follow my own policies, right? And so those are then become the individual behaviors that impact the
Yes. Okay.
company.
So yeah, you mentioned individual. Any individual, it doesn't have to be a security individual. But yeah,
Yep.
this is very interesting. The organization assessing their risk should be strategic, right? So it is. I don't agree with none of those behaviors you just said. But I'm just saying. But when the organization has to actually make a decision, I think if the behavior of the individual is widespread, that might be something that will potentially influence a little bit more.
Yep.
So if like I'm seeing all of my sysadmins just putting up servers with exposed ports to the internet over and over again, and it's most of them doing it, etc. I see literally everybody with sticky notes everywhere. I think if it's more widespread, it would influence.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what I think would influence more is the overall risk that the company would assess based on what can actually cause them, financial damage or reputational damage.
Yeah.
That will be making that. The original question when you were talking, I think maybe there was a question I wanted to answer that I was just listening for.
No, you're fine.
Which is how the security individual can go actually influence the company. because that also happens. Sometimes companies have a whole security organization, but they still can't get a lot of traction because you do need to get consensus between the security drivers and the actual business drivers. So sometimes the security individuals or a security organization will realize the risk before the bigger org knows, and be able to even prioritize it for the organization. Just say, you know what? Between the sticky notes and the guy putting up the SSH port over on the internet, let's focus on teaching the SSH the IT group first. We may be able to now. That piece is, I feel like, part of being an excellent professional and working in a security org that carries weight. Then you do need to know how to talk to the executive branch, to the CEO, to whoever is making those decisions, the CFOs, etc. Because you're gonna have to showcase. You can't just be like, "Hey, I'm concerned because a bunch of our server admins are putting up SSH ports open to the internet. This is a problem." You can't say that. They're gonna be like, "I don't care." It has to be, these servers have our data that the competitor wants, and if they are not patched, it's going to go down. It's going to cost us X amount of $1 million. And by implementing this other tool, we can prevent that, and it's only going to cost us this amount of dollars, which is a lot less. Yep. You have to put in the whole thing for them to be, then you can influence. So I think the security groups have, I feel like it's their role to influence the organization.
It was funny, years ago, I had a friend, we did a red team exercise with his blessing on his company. And what you're describing, so we successfully executed the exercise, and I showed him, I said, look, and I won't go into detail of the company or the exercise, but we were successful in what we did. So I stopped the exercise and I said, okay, here's what you've got. And he was very surprised that we were so quickly able to perform the exercise. And there was a young man who was an IT professional, and he says to him, he says, I've been telling you this for years.
Oh yeah.
And I watched this exchange. So it was an executive. He was the owner and the CEO of his company, and it was a multi-million-dollar company. Mm-hmm. And I see this young man. I see myself in this young guy, right? Like, he's probably 25, maybe 26 years old, and he's trying to explain. And he did exactly what you described, which is, hey, there's all of these servers with ports that are open on the internet. Means absolutely nothing to the executive, and the executive started to turn it, and he was going to walk away, and he said, as we were walking away, he said, that was his chance to shine, and he didn't convey the message to me. And so I turned him around and I said, okay, and this was I'm going to use his words, you're talking Klingon to this guy. This doesn't mean anything to him, literally, like it's jargon. I said, what you need to tell him is exactly what you described. What you described right now is to say, hey, did you know that all of your customers' information is available to your competitors right now? Mm-hmm. Guess what? That's going to get an exec's attention really, really quickly.
You don't even need to mention server.
You don't need to say server. You don't need to say port. Didn't even say it, right? Like, or even if you don't want to say data, you can make it real specific. Do you know their credit card numbers are available? Right. What? Why? What do you mean? And so, but and I think that I can only fault this young guy so much because I know I did the exact same thing.
Oh yeah, and I wouldn't. In that case, I'm not saying about the age per se, but there is a level of exposure and a level of experience that a person will have until they realize that. I have plenty of times not conveyed this message, and even today with several, I'm almost getting on 2 decades of experience, and it's like even today I still have to. It's actually an exercise. You have to really sit down and intentionally translate into the business. So if a person is early in career, Absolutely not. They're going to see differently. They're just not prepared. It's a teamwork, right? So there
Yeah.
is a difference there. But yeah, the ability of conveying into business terms is
Yeah.
the key to get that initial investment. And then we go right back into the beginning of the conversation. So that's the key to that initial investment. They'll sign the check,
Yeah.
right? Didn't make you secure yet, though. The debt is still there. Open up. What is the next step? Because now you get really in, okay, we got the buy-in from the org. We agreed that the risk matters, right? That we want to address that risk. You got the buy-in, you signed the check, you got a tool, you got a technology of your choice. How are you going to proceed that down from a technical deployment perspective and from the human adoption perspective?
So I want to ask a question specific to Microsoft, especially now that we've got you here. Do you feel like there's something that Microsoft is doing that's unique in this space to be able to help lend language to, the 25-year-old Robert, right, trying to convey this to his leaders, the important bridging that gap? Is there something that's, I know I brought up Purview, we've talked about Intro, we've talked about a few of the
Mm-hmm.
different tools. Is there something within the Microsoft sphere that can help bridge that gap or that you're aware of?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One of them would be part of the design, which is we are very focused on the user experience and saying, hey, whatever we're building here from both the admin persona and the user persona, building something that can flow well. Like we don't want
Yeah.
it to be so complicated to deploy that the admins are like, oh my God, or we don't want it to be so complicated to use that the users are also going to end up not taking it on. So when we are designing and building our security tools and other, this is across the board for every product, we do design with that in mind. So that's step one, to enable all of the usage that we want them to achieve. And then secondly is from an investment perspective, Microsoft has a few programs. It will vary based on eligibility and what they are. And depending on the year, we may be putting focus on some things versus others. But we do have incentive programs, which is assistance that Microsoft will provide customers and some partners to go ahead and realize the value of what they purchased, to give them um, resources that will help them actually get things up and running. And there is a variety of those incentives available.
If you could go into and redesign a company's security culture from scratch, where would you start?
I think we're doing good. I would maintain identity as the first line of everything.
Yes, win. That's
Yes.
the
Yeah.
W for
Right.
identity.
I will. So that one is true.
Woo!
Now here's the dream. So because industry has already been flowing that way, and guidelines saying, oh, identity is the first line and it's of defense and whatever. But I would say we always need the identity, right? How are you going to
Yeah,
access anything? How are you going to log in? How are you going to get your computer out and start working? So identity should always have a fairly decent level of maturity, right? So I would say if I am designing anything from scratch, I would probably start with identity first and achieving a good level of security in the identity, and everything follows. Now, what I if I could dream of the design, if we don't have to worry about brownfield, right? Like things that we legacy systems and all of these things that we really deal with in the real life, I would probably invest and be in the forefront of all these passwordless new investments.
yeah,
It there we're getting good. I know there's more to be done, but if I could even have the passwordless experience
yeah,
off the bat, where the user doesn't even need to know or remembers password. There's a couple of layers, right? There's a passwordless
yeah,
technology where the password still exists, but it's
yeah.
not even needed. And there is progress on truly no password, just doesn't exist.
So
And that's what I would go with.
so I don't know. So I'm gonna get out a little bit beyond my skis with the question I'm gonna ask next. So if this question
Hmm.
doesn't make sense, you could throw it out. So it, does Windows Hello allow for that passwordless experience, sort of like that? Like, I guess, yeah.
It it's considered a passwordless experience, right? But the reality is that there is still a password present somewhere, like in your directory.
Okay.
So Windows Hello will be able to authenticate you and pass the
Yeah.
token, activate it, and allow you in without having to put in a password.
Okay.
Uh, in the system, systematically speaking, a password still exists.
Okay.
Yeah, but the user
But for
doesn't
the
even know.
user, but what, like, once it goes in, but the user doesn't like it,
Mm-mm.
it's okay.
Yeah,
Interesting. So it's
yeah.
kind of a way maybe of bridging both those worlds. It sounds like maybe.
Yes, it is a transition, and it's going to continue to evolve. And we are, and that's the goal. The goal is to truly not even have systems that have passwords in them,
Yeah.
um, which is very, But again, if I were to start from scratch, that's it. And
Yeah.
trusting that the new technology has of standards in place and everything that maintain or exceed the level of security without we will not impact the security. It will really actually in most cases be even better than what a password is.
I love it. So I if a company already has something like Microsoft Entra or Windows Hello, what's like one small cultural or process change that would instantly make that their investments more effective?
You know, when a company is using Entra, there's a few layers of licensing that they have. But in every layer of licensing, there are lots of features and capabilities that they may or may not be aware of. If you are aware and you just decided not to use them, that's okay. Then it's a conscious decision.
Yeah.
But I have seen situations where customers have bought a particular bundle or a particular intra license, and then because of one thing, but there's so much more in there. There's a lot of things that can be configured, deployed, up and running, add to your defenses.
Yep.
And my recommendation would be truly understand what is the whole package you're getting.
Yeah.
Analyze what you truly need, what you don't, but do what I feel like it's a miss, and the companies can be missing out on is when they don't know and it was there. And
Oh
sometimes they
shoot.
might even end up purchasing a different tool.
No.
Sometimes it
Oh
happens.
shoot.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
again, like if you got a different tool because the other tool fits your needs, because that is perfect for your use case, and the ones that were in the bundle were not great. The company always has to assess and do what's better for them. But if you bought it just because you didn't even know that something was included in here that you were already kind of paying for, but you were
Oh
unaware.
man. So we come back to education, right?
Yes. And that comes from lucky for us, like we have Microsoft partners, right, that are fully aware of this whole set of bundles that can help customers realize the full value of the investment that they have already started with.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I
Hmm.
mean, really, I mean, you don't want to get in a situation where that even happens, but like this will actually like kind of lead me into sort of one of the few last questions I had and I was thinking about this today, and I don't know kind of what your thoughts would be on this, because essentially like making security sort of a shared value as opposed to a compliance checkbox. And as I thought about that, I said, anyone who's been through sort of a SOC 2 or a
Mm.
PCI, like, yeah, there's a lot of check boxes that are involved with that. But I'll tell you, when you're done with those check boxes, you're probably in a better spots. So
Mhm.
I go out and I exercise every morning, and as part of that, like that was in my mind, and I thought about that adage is like, hey, how do you make it not a checkbox? And I'm like, how about the fact that we're doing it? Like, doesn't that make it like, I mean, and I guess I don't know. Like I thought about that, and I was just thinking about, sort of the time that I've spent with my own company going through SOC 2 and helping others prepare for
Mm.
SOC 2. And I'm like, That seems pretty like, I guess maybe, I don't want to say derogatory, but I'm like, if you're taking the moment to upskill yourself, why would I trash it by just saying it's a checkbox thing? But maybe there is this idea of making it, and I think that you personify this, Camila, which is
Hmm.
that you live the value, right? You're excited about it. Like how, like maybe that's maybe the better question is how do we get excited about this, right? Where it's not maybe drudgery. Maybe that's the better way for me to position it.
That is true. And yeah, it's how can you, so whenever you receive the news that your company must comply with X, uh, controls or frameworks or standards, that's what I mean. Like, how do we go from, oh no, oh my God, to, oh, let's see what we got going on here. Let's see what we can work on and what we got to do. Because it just it unfortunately kind of leans more on security as a uh, of something that I have to do because somebody's telling me to. Um, Maybe even the way we talk about audits, and it's not the most friendly, I guess. It's not the audits feels like do it because we're telling you. It's not like I understand why we're doing this. I understand
Right.
how this is addressing risk. I understand how this is helping my company, and I'm part of it. So that depending on how we
No, I
post
mean,
it, it could
understanding
help.
why, right? You understand why. So like and it's we're coming back to education again, which is interesting. I feel like that seems to be a resounding theme is
Hmm.
education during the conversation. This is if you are educated to understanding why the thing is, that becomes an important piece of changing your vision, changing your attitude is that educational component of understanding, which requires the individual to take the time to go do it, right? Like, why am I being asked to do this? Okay.
Hmm.
Instead of, oh, why am I being asked to do this again? No, but like be curious. And that was something that a leader had shared with me, but like years ago was be curious about what's happening around you. And I would say this is that for those listening, what's something that regardless of their role that you hope that they take away from security in the course of the conversation that we've had today?
Oh, regardless of the role, it's thinking there's security in everything. So I always say this: there is security in every role. There's security in everything. Keep your eyes peeled. Keep your eyes open. Understand that the data you have access to may not be needed for others. When you see something, say something, right? Even if it sounds, maybe you think it's nothing, it could be. It could be as simple as something that could prevent a big incident. But I would say don't dismiss security. Say like security is not my job. Security is in everything, and keep your eyes peeled for unusual behaviors, and say something whenever you notice something.
So if somebody wants to say something to you and wants to connect with
Yeah,
you, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you? Is like LinkedIn, email, phone, Twitter,
yeah.
something
So I,
else?
I, I am on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn will be the easiest way over there. We can add my information somewhere, or my name is Camila Martins.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and we'll add that as part of the podcast
Hmm.
when we're done. So we'll put it in. We'll put your LinkedIn there so that people can reach out to you that way. Want to appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk with myself and with those that are listening today. And I appreciate your enthusiasm. I think it's been absolutely wonderful. It's vibrant. It's colorful, and I love your attitude. I think it's wonderful. I think it's great. And for those that have listened in today who've taken the time, thank you. This is Camila Martins, wonderful persona joining us today from Microsoft. I hope you have a fantastic day. And Camila, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Robert. This was great.